Institute, and she is a doctorate from psychology, and she believes that yoga and psychology can go hand in hand together and striving for the betterment of the humanity using both these streams, and especially on Divyanga. I think you proposed it. She was already doing some work with the Samvad Shala, which is a school for special children at Kaivalyadhama, at Lonavla. And then they had already started doing a few basic things with five children from Samvad Shala. And then they thought that it should be taken forward, and that is when our MOU happened. And Subodh sir was so very encouraging, and then we took the next step with Yoga Mela in 2016, and last year we had this program for intensive training workshop for the teachers who are teaching the special children. And we hope to move forward. Like Subodha said, we are expanding more. Right now it is focused only on Maharashtra, but let us hope that we are taking it forward all over India. And the wonderful Dr. Praseeda, a personal friend and a wonderful human being. So thank you for being here, and over to you. Ammaji will be chairing.
People whom I look up to, and it's so wonderful to always interact with them and to work with them, and they have been patrons of Kaivalyadhama, and it's always so good to re-establish this collaboration that we have. So thank you so much for inviting the whole Kaivalyadhama team and also giving me this opportunity to offer some of my inputs in this particular area, whatever little I can offer. So as you would see, I'm going to speak on Divyanga and Yoga, the current research scenario. Due to constraints of time, I may not be able to cover the whole picture, but we'll focus on a few aspects and try to cover in depth about those aspects. It comes out of the heart that whatever Kaivalyadhama is today is because of this person, Swami Kaivalyadhama. When there was no need of science in yoga, yoga was shrouded in myth and a lot of superstition, he was the person to bring science to yoga, and that is why he is called the yogi and the scientist, Swami Kaivalyadhama, our founder of Kaivalyadhama. Very quickly, let me just run you through some of the recognitions of Kaivalyadhama. We are a CIRO. We are also a collaborative research center of CCRYN. We also are the first yoga institute to be declared as an All India Institute of Higher Education, first College of Yoga, first yogic hospital, also first yoga research journal, Yoga Mimamsa, which is now a UGC approved research journal. The June issue is out, so y'all may go on the website and y'all can freely access it. It is free for reading online. So let me start by giving you an overview of what all we'll be covering in this particular talk. So first, since this is a seminar on Divyanga, we'll look very quickly at what exactly does the Indian term Divyanga mean, how did it arise, and whatever little I could find on the internet about this. Then we'll look at the international classification of diseases and where the neurodevelopmental disorders fit. We will look at some of the research studies about two of the major mental disabilities. We'll also look at the small study that we did, case study that we did that Dr. Meena was referring to, which started in 2015. And then we will take an overview of the current research scenario and what is the way ahead, what is yoga's potential in Divyanga, and some of my views that I would like to offer for future research. So, as all of you would know, that Divyanga is a new term which came to us because of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. And what he wanted to do is, he wanted to take this negative aspect when we refer to Vikalanga in Hindi and change it into something very positive. So instead of some disability, we wanted to emphasize on the positive aspect that people who have these needs, what we call special needs, have. So Divyanga, the one who has divine body, part or parts. And this is a quote from our Prime Minister. We see a person's disability with our eyes, but our interaction tells us the person has an extra power. We do come across this. A blind person, just by the sound of the footstep, can recognize who that person is, although that person cannot see. Where did that power come from? These are people who have a limb or several limbs with divine powers which we don't have. So what I get to know from the internet is that the government officials took his 2015 Man Ki Baat radio talk very seriously when he referred to Divyanga, and he gave a call to the nation to refer to people with disabilities as Divyanga. And that is why they made it official in 2018. The Indian Railway Ministry, which offers concessions to people with disabilities, they chose to put it into their records and forms. So I wanted to know what all does this term cover, because it is, I could find only the Railway Ministry actually as a cover. There are citations related to this. And what the citations or the abstracts say is yoga practices, when they were introduced to, at that term, what was considered at that time general posture, it reduced obesity, it controlled dribbling, the saliva coming out, it helped in bringing down hyperactivity in these children, improving appetite, sleep, and general health. Now, the second study, which was published right after that in 1989, was by these authors from SVasa, Umana, Kendra, Nagaratna, Vedehi, and Sita Lakshmi. And so, before publishing, this is a very well done study, and in intellectual disability, there are only 2 studies which are very well written and very well done. Out of those 2, this is the first one, and I will be talking about the second one also. So these authors, before publishing in 1989, they did a pilot study in 1984, and they introduced yoga for ID children for 6 months. And they found positive results with 10 children who had intellectual disability. So then they thought that why not improve the research design? Why not take a larger sample? Second one, very parsimonious study, but very well written, because even with limited resources, they have tried to extract the best out of the situation and try to give as much scientific rigor to the study. So this was a self as control design, wherein the time acted as the control. So that it was like, you do a practice and you're seeing the immediate effect. But then what you're doing is, whatever you want to test the children on, you are testing first, and then you're giving a gap of 10 minutes, and nothing is happening in those 10 minutes. Again, you're testing them. So time acts as a control factor. And then after that, then you're testing them again, giving them the particular practice, and again testing them. So then, with the same people, without a control group, you are able to give that controlled aspect of the study, which is considered very important. So the immediate effect of performing Mukha Bhastrika on the visual and auditory reaction time of 34 children with intellectual disability was measured, and there was a history of this particular practice of Mukha Bhastrika showing improvement in reaction time in some of their earlier studies, not with intellectually disabled children. So they thought that this would be a good study to run on intellectually disabled children from Sadeh School, where Dr. Meena and Gunani sir have been working continuously, I think, for more than 15-16 years now. So just that one practice of performing Mukha Bhastrika led to significant decrease in the audio and visual reaction time, which means that reaction time is basically how alert are you, how good is your concentration. So if I put my finger on this lamp and it burns, how soon do I withdraw? So it's something like that. There is an apparatus set up which will give you an audio cue, and when you hear that sound, how soon do you withdraw the finger? When you see. Now there is another study. This is a very recent study by Sri Lakshmi Devi and Sushila. It was a single group pre-post design, and there is this sit and reach test. Like, you sit in Paschimottanasana, and how much is your reach? Sit and reach. So they measured the flexibility, and they found that there was improvement. Of course, this is a single group pre-post design, so it is difficult to lay a lot of faith in the results that we achieve, because if it is a randomized control design, then we are introducing certain rigor wherein there are no confounds, there is no noise in the study. Nobody can point fingers and say that, oh, how do you say that yoga actually did this? It can be something else. So so that is why the emphasis on randomized control design. Now we'll come to our Kdham case study, which Dr. Meena was referring to. This we did in 2015. Again, this was a single group. It was an exploratory research for us. So we did not even know what to expect, whether we would even find children. We started out with 6 children who dropped out because they left the school. We were left with 4 children. But we wanted to explore, and we said that, okay, we'll keep it like a quantitative, qualitative design. We will see what happens. Again, we tested them on audio-visual reaction time, which I did explain how it is tested. And there is this hand steadiness meter tester, wherein you have a board wherein you have 9 holes, and you have to introduce a stylus into those holes, each of the 9 holes. Now the first hole is roughly the shape of a small coin, but the last or the 9th hole is the shape of the diameter is almost like a needle, the diameter of a needle. So when you have to insert the stylus, the machine or the apparatus is so organized that how soon can you do it, and how soon can you do it without committing errors, which means what? You're not supposed to touch the edges of that hole. When it is a big hole, it's easy, you can insert it. But when the hole becomes very small, then it is difficult to keep your hand steady and insert the hole, and the measurement should be accurate. So these were the 2 instruments which we had in our scientific research lab. So we said that, okay, let's use these 2 instruments and see. There were some qualitative observations also made. We videographed it, and that is how the whole thing has come to what it has a module. Because sometimes there is always a question: what exactly did you did yoga training? What? There is a chart which I have of the first and second month yoga asanas, and how we alternated the first day, the second day, then the third day would be the first set of yoga asanas, which I can share with you if you all are interested in. But basically, to give you an overview, the yoga module was devised in such a way with the help of the experts available at Kaivalyadhama, so that First, it is more basic. So the first 2 months are more of allowing the children to get attuned to the instructions, move their body, do some warm-up, and of course in the process do some asana also. But no perfection involved at all. We are letting them be. Then the intermediate module. Now, when they are more attuned to listening to the instructions and they know what is going to follow, then we can introduce some dynamic postures like the Surya Namaskar. And it is difficult for these children because there are a set of, depending on which tradition you follow, 10 or 12 postures that you have to do one after the other. So these children, some of them are very lethargic, they don't want to move. And some children, you have to instruct them for one small instruction 10 times for them to do it one time. So then we introduced Surya Namaskar, and also the duration of the entire yoga module was slightly increased. The time was increased. And we made them practice fuller versions, like not Ardha Halasana but full Halasana, whoever could practice. Then the slightly advanced module was introduction of the Bhramari Pranayam, and by constant instructions, training them to hold a particular posture, which is again very difficult for these children. And pranayam also, they just don't want to breathe properly. Some children, they don't understand what is breathing in and what is breathing out. Even many of us who don't know proper breathing can have this, faulty breathing. So Bhramari Pranayam was added, which was again, the children enjoyed a lot. Yeah, the scientific details of this particular study is mentioned in the souvenir that has been released today. So you can go back and see the actual figures of what measurements we did. And now let us see a film. I wanted to introduce this to you. This film was made in 2016 when Dr. Meena had come there for doing the Yoga Mela. And I wanted to share this with you so that you all can also see the journey that we went through in all this collaboration and when we are trying to do this study with these kids. No audio?
ऐसा हम करें तो वो कठिन सब कुछ देख के आप उसको करके लेना जो मिला उससे मारना एक बार दो बार उसको मारना तो अपनी मारेगी अपनी कहानी है बहुत बदलाव होगा
Kaivalyadhama is looking and studying a long-term effect of yoga on these children. There is very little study on the impact of asana, pranayama, mudra on intellectual children.
So that is why we thought about the study of introducing yoga for special children. We did the study for 5 months with 4 special children from a special school in Lonavla called Sangharshala.
शाळेमध्ये पहिल्यांदा योगा म्हणजे काय मुलांना काही माहितीच नव्हतं कशासाठी त्याचा आधी उपयोग आहे त्यांना काही कळत नव्हतं त्यांनी काय फायदे होणार आहे किंवा कसं करायला पाहिजे हे आम्ही त्यांना पहिल्यांदी ट्रेनिंग दिली.
The results from the study were delightfully positive. The children showed improvement in their ability to listen and follow instructions accurately. They showed greater neuromotor coordination, stability of posture, etc. Still, the fun element was missing, due to which they did not really enjoy it. So we had this in mind that when planning a larger research study with such children, it will be very important to introduce yoga in such a way that these children thoroughly enjoy yoga as well as have fun with it. We thought that we should be collaborating with people and institutes who are or who have been working in this area. That is why we collaborated with Dr. Meena from Center for Yoga Therapy Education and Research. Dr. Meena has been working with introducing yoga for special children since 12 years. She has been using yoga as a tool for self-development and growth of these special children. She used a lot of yogic postures with animal sounds.
Are you all ready? Start. शुरू कर लो. सब क्या है अभी? सभी है. बिल्ली.
जैसे कि मैम करवा रही थी कैट वॉइस, कैट का और डॉग्स का और ये चिल्लाना, हंसना, तो बच्चे इसको ज़्यादा ऑब्जर्व करके मतलब ज़्यादा उसको एंजॉय कर रहे थे, मतलब कि उनका गेम के प्रति काफ़ी अट्रैक्शन था.
You cannot tell a tree or a plant or anybody else to grow in a particular way. You can just provide a particular condition. And when thinking about all this yoga project, the conclusion that we kind of came to was that it's actually to provide the right conditions for growth.
Yoga Mela was a two-day event for special children. It was organized by Kdham Yoga Institute in collaboration with two other institutes. Actually, Mela in Hindi means a fair where you can come, have fun, enjoy. Likewise, in the Yoga Mela, the children from Samvad Shala, along with their teachers and family members, participated, enjoyed, and had fun with it. So we are looking at various types of collaborations. We would want people, agencies and institutions who are already working with special children to come and join hands with us in planning a larger research project about investigating the efficacy of yogic practices with intellectually disabled children. Also, we would want enthusiastic and creative social scientists and psychologists to come and associate with us. We would want public and private funding agencies to support us in this endeavor. We are also looking for people in the society to come forward and support Samvad Shala in whatever way they can, be it their expertise, time, energy, social networks and or finances. Dr. Meena has talked at length explaining the methodology and what exactly were the activities we did. All that is mentioned in the recent film, and wherein we have tried to firm the collaboration with Kdham of Kaivalyadhama. Yes, and then after doing this study, the school was very cooperative. We were very fortunate. The teachers were very enthusiastic. So I would like to show you some pictures of yoga done in the school after the research study got completed. These were pictures sent by the teachers, the special educators in the school who were taking yoga every day for 30 to 45 minutes. Some of the yoga sessions there. Yes. So now, after dealing with intellectual disability, I have time only to deal with one other neurodevelopmental disorder, which is the autism spectrum disorder, or which we commonly call as autism. Now, again, there has been no work in this area till 2010. So, Radhakrishna, Nagaratna and Nagendra, they did a study on autism spectrum disorder with 6 ASD children. It was a matched group design wherein they did 3 readings, pre, mid and post. And so they had 6 people in the control group and 6 people in the yoga group. Means over 20 months. And the highlight of this study was what we are now trying to advocate. In 2010, they also had started advocating this, that involve the family, involve the significant others of the child that you are dealing with. So they trained in the initial 2 weeks. They trained the parents so that they could guide the child in yoga, and there is full participation of the child, and it could be a regular home practice for the child. So improvements in communication, social, cognitive and adaptive skills were seen in the yoga group. And the only thing that sort of you can say we can't say again for sure is they introduced a control group, but in the paper that they have written, they have not mentioned the results obtained of the control group. So this sort of marks down this study, although it is that way, even with 6 children, a very well thought of study. Yes. So this is another study by Rosenblatt in 2011. So now, here what they measured was 24 parents with standard psychological tests, and it was a 8-week multimodal yoga, dance, music therapy program, and they concentrated on the relaxation response. So what they found was the behavioral and emotional regulation had improved, but they did not find any change in attention, somatization, that means obsession with their body, and hyperactivity. This is another study in 2012, pre-post control group design, 48 students per condition, and daily 16 weeks of manualized yoga intervention. Here they tried to use technology. They introduced a lot of videography. They gave, so they made that the yoga module standard, gave them resources so that they could practice it at home. And they manualized it. Like the procedure is very standard for all the results. But what the scientific community has to say about yoga research in general, and particularly about these type of studies also, is that there is a weakness in the study design, and that is why it is very difficult to draw definitive conclusions. Sample size is not adequate, so the study lacks power. Comparison cannot be made because there is no control group. The yoga intervention is not properly documented. The procedure, the details, minute details of the procedure are not given, and the frequency and duration may not be enough. Like some studies, they will just do once in a week. It may not be enough. Usually in India, we do it every day, at least 5 days in a week we will do it. To obtain the desired results, the frequency and duration has to be so much. Then psychometrically valid measures are not used. And then if there is no adequate replication of these studies, you can't establish an evidence base in this area. So that is why lack of definitive conclusions. So we all know this, that yoga research with Divyang has a lot of potential, a lot of promise despite its limitations. If there is more scientific rigor which could be followed, and one of the aspects that I personally believe is that yoga as a methodical scientific set of practices that we are trying to advocate is capitalizing on the inherent ability of the brain to change itself every moment, which is called neuroplasticity. And if we can do anything, we can achieve any skill, we can master any skill if we have the adequate practice. That is why we say think happy thoughts, or practice a particular thing to make yourself perfect. So so for Divyang, mastering life skills can mean a whole lot of difference. Like for example, what? It is the same as what would apply to us, but in their particular way, in their life, those will be life skills for them. They'll be more stable, balanced physically, mentally, with less behavioral problems, which usually the caregivers have to face. That is why they are under so much of stress. Then their self-care regimen will improve, their respect which they have for themselves, their self-esteem will improve, their sense of self-regulation will improve. They will learn to use their talents, because that self-concept has started changing. They will start using their talents in healthier ways, more productive ways, and there will be greater integration, cooperation with people and environment around. Now, two particular things that I want to just add to this whole flow is there is a term called participatory research in research, wherein you are not imposing things on a particular community and trying to see how they work, but then you are going to the community, seeing what is happening there, you're learning out of their experiences and trying to mold your research accordingly. So I think in this context, learning from the experiences of the caregivers of Divyang, full involvement of those caregivers, be it school, parents, special educators in the research, empowerment of the family members, because once you finish the research study, you are not going to be able to pursue it. Then who? Then we have to empower people on the ground. So participatory research and micro-leadership. Because as researchers, we have this power, it's just that we don't use it. Motivating the parents and special educators to learn yoga, supporting them, motivating the school to introduce yoga if they don't already have it in their regular school curriculum. Facilitating training support in regular intervals. Maybe that regular interval may be once in 6 months, but still, it is important to make sure that they are still on track. And I would say that this is a healthy confluence, and also the roadmap for the future when we do yoga research, especially with such a community and otherwise also, because research just for the sake of research for mere academics is the earlier view. Now all of the research community is geared up towards upliftment of the society. What sir was also mentioning in the morning, that the end user has to eventually benefit in a long term. That is the evolved view. So it can be a game changer if we could have a confluence of participatory research and leadership. And it will, with Divyang, when we do this type of yoga research, community outreach, engagement, welfare will happen. And it will serve as a very powerful means for their rehabilitation and integration with mainstream society, is what I would like to conclude with. And this is my wish, that may all of us, whoever is motivated and interested, work together towards the welfare of these differently abled, special needs people, children, and maybe have the power to do so. Thank you so much, all of you, for the wonderful. Always go to our website for more updates. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dr. Praseeda, for that wonderful, enhancing speech about the research activities that has gone on and that will be taken forward. May I now hand over the mic to Ammaji to just compile in a few words about the session, and then we'll go on to the next session.
My son has just told me not to say anything because we've run out of time. Anyway, I've enjoyed. Come and sit here a minute. Come and sit here. It was a very nice experience to sit and listen to you work. I just wanted to ask you, are you doing any work with disabled children yourself, or is it only research?
It's more of research, and that is why we always call Dr. Meena. I am not a yoga therapist, so I don't consider myself qualified to do it. So I think it should be done by certified, qualified yoga therapists, so that we don't mess up with these children. We may not be able to do good for them, but it's more of the research, trying to get things together and do the research aspect has been my focus.
Anyway, it's nice. It's very interesting to hear these things. I would like to make a comment that I think everyone is disabled. This is my experience of 50 years of yoga teaching, and I think that only perhaps the saints and the yogis and the highly realized people can claim to be perfectly sane and perfectly able. And in my experience, the modern world, people are becoming more and more disabled. And research is useful, but the research has to be, that's why I would encourage you to go into it in a more practical way. And one of the things, a lot of good points, of course, you've made, and watching some of the disabled kids actually brings tears to my eyes. I've seen Menon, who's been working for decades with mentally challenged kids and also physical challenge. And one of the greatest qualities she has is that she loves them deeply. Well, I myself do not have that. At the same time, there is a compassion, there is a wonderment. But she loves the kids. And I don't know how you can measure that with research. You see, you can have someone who's learned a technique or somebody who learns a few things to do. But there has to be that great love, because I think that Divya has been able to see Meena has been able to see the divinity in these children. And in some of her kids with Satya school, which has run into some rocky times, but was doing a very good job, she had them doing some amazing things. And the one thing these disabled kids, so-called disabled kids intellectually and physically, one thing that they could do is they could do yoga.
Very much.
They could do yogasanas, and some of them were terrific. They were just terrific. So there was one field in their life where they could excel. And in her group, over decades, many of the children she was working with actually achieved quite high things even in the world. A few of them became good sports people, some of them became teachers, some of them went out and did some general work.
They went to normal schools.
They went to normal schools, and it was quite, but it took decades. Two things it took, decades and love. And love, and I can only say what is love. I don't mean this emotional, hormonal thing where I love you, yeah, which the kids love to hear so much. It's so stupid. That has nothing to do with love. But Swamiji used to tell us love, because when I came to him I was 25. So I always used to ask Swamiji, what is love? That's a question all the young kids are asking, aren't they? And he always gave me the same answer. I used to ask him almost once a week. And I thought he'd tell me something new. He never told me anything else. He just said, love is profound interest. And to me, I never have heard a better definition. When you profoundly are interested in someone or something, that is love. And Nina, I can only say she's a poster girl for this. That she loved those kids. And she got so much joy in watching them grow that she was able to get something. Now, I don't know how you can research that.
I know.
So that is why I would question some of the research. And to me, the research should deal with people who are doing work in this field. And I'm not so much acquainted with our other school now, who,
Satya.
where are you?
Satya Spanish School.
There, where are you? Stand up, let's see you. Now I'll have to go and visit her school.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to go and visit her school and see what she's doing, but Anand and Meena are quite happy with your work. And you have to love the kids. And you have to care about them. You have to be profoundly interested in them. Now, this is the type of research you should undertake to go to a school like this. How many years you're established now?
60?
Huh?
60?
1-6.
Yeah.
And Satya school was?
This is Satya.
7 branches.
9 branches and 1,000 children.
They have 9 branches and more than 1,000 children enrolled in all these 9 branches.
Where? All over India? I would suggest that research in the future be done in schools that have been doing significant work. Because just to take a bunch of kids and teach them some techniques doesn't mean much. But yeah, like what she was doing before, and I think now you're collaborating.
Yes.
You go to established schools that have been going for years, and just get their statistics, see how they do, and you can see with your own eyes what the changes are. Otherwise, it's something. I mean, you're doing something and it's appreciated, but I think it's better to research something that is already going on for a long period of time, and then you give something. And I'm going to now tell you to be quiet in a very polite way. But because I'm his mother, I'm not going to be quiet. I enjoyed a lot. And I wanted to just say I like this idea of neuroplasticity, which is a brand new idea coming up. And it's a great optimistic idea that our brain can change itself. And also some of your points about this, it has to be go on for a long time. Any change take place, whether it's in disabled people or so-called normal people, it has to go on a long time. And we all want this good thing. Give me a pill, give me a technique, give me a touch me on the head, give me a Kdham poke or something, whatever is the latest thing. But this concept of abhyas, which is a fabulous concept of yoga. Abhyas, abhyas, abhyas. Do it again and 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 again. Now they have that concept in sports and in other arts. 10,000 hours to reach a certain perfection. You have to have 10,000 hours. They put that time limit on it. This is this old idea of 3 R's. Regularity, rhythm, and repetition, which has to be the core of any change. No change can take place without that. So if you're just going to do a study that is only involving a few months or something, it doesn't show much actually. And mainly these are the points, and I appreciate a lot. And hopefully you'll be motivated to go out and instead of sitting in your laboratory constructing statistics and you go out and you get your hands dirty. Go out and, there must be some schools out in Lonavla and Pune and places where they're working with kids. Yeah.
We asked her to train the teachers who are already working.
Yeah, and let it go on for a long time.
Yes,
This bit, we've got 5 techniques in it. With 5 techniques, we're going to make an intellectually challenged kid into a genius. This is a lot. It's nice to hear that work. Very interesting and nice to work. Yeah. And it's very nice to interact with you. Thank you for coming all the way from Lonavla. Give her a big hand.
Thank you, Praseeda. Thank you so much. I know it's a little late, but maybe have Srimati Chitra Shah on the dais to give her management perspective